The greatest problem an African has is that it can no longer recognize or understand the civilization, its history, or science. We use a Eurocentric linear perspective to interpret our history and our science and our research instead of a cyclical perspective. And this is a problem because when you look at it, people just see the arts in it. There's a science to it, there's politics in it. But it's been dumbed down that all we do is dance, have festivals and hope, instead of understanding the science of our civilization. And once we do that, then we know that all these tribal creations are just creations of the coloniality to divide and rule. And until we teach our children of the glorious history of how, after humanity evolved in Nigeria and spread to Egypt to build the Egyptian empire, we spread all the way down to China from 80,000 years to 4,000 years ago, no, to 6,000 years ago, before the white man started coming in and taking over those places. We need to understand this because and we've got to that point because when you look at what's happening in the Middle Belt and the Kitty, this herdsmen, you see, one of the greatest problems we have is that those being killed, who call themselves Christians, cannot accept that these herdsmen that they're talking about come from the same stock as Abraham, who started it, and he has moved from that Israel into Egypt, into Lake Chad, we used to call it Ngazaram, took over Daura, spread down to Senegal, Gambia, and and back. And these people have not only changed the language, they have not only destroyed the traditional institutions. You realize that they have become so mixed. The Fulani even have less than 50%. The Fulani, the Boro ones, the real Fulani, it's not the fake ones, have 50%. Less than 50% indigenous African DNA. So the way they see. But the problem actually is not them. Is we, the indigenous African civilization, who have been decivilized and mentally enslaved to understand that we are still the majority, that we are 70% of Nigeria and 70% of the population of Africa. No, we have been segmented into tribes that fight each other instead of us coming together. And the only people who can do this are Yorubas and Igbos because they're the two largest indigenous African civilizations. And if they don't come together, we'll all be culturally alienated in another 250 years because they're coming and they've been coming. You've seen that the whole of North Africa, we used to be black, has become white. And that is how they're going to, in about 250 years from now, you won't find Ade or Owo or Chuku. What you find is Ahmed and Mohammed. That's all you're going to find here. Unless you wake up and defend your civilization as a civilization, not as a tribe. As that our civilization extends to South Kaduna, and anybody from South Kaduna to the coast who is being attacked by the herdsmen is attacking all of us, known as the South and Middle Belt. Until we start thinking about that, and this is one of the reasons where, like, you see, we can't even turn it into a police state. I personally, not any of the groups that belong, I believe that we should have the right of self-preservation. It was taken all the way back to slavery because none of these governments from Oyo to what we call it have been able to protect us. So let us protect ourselves. Let there be law for each man to be able to carry a gun to protect his life instead of coming onto television and celebrating when 200 people die in Benue. Enough is enough. We need to be able to protect ourselves and think like a civilization.